Welcome to another installment on Spotlight on America, where every Monday we make a video about a place in the United States of America that you might not know unless you live there or you've traveled there. And this week is not in the continental United States, therefore I will not be visiting there on my Amtrak Rail Pass trip this coming summer. But in honor of the kickoff to the Iditarod, I want to talk about Wasilla, Alaska. If you know anything about me, you probably know that about 24 years ago, when I got out of the Marines, I moved up to Alaska for a wild adventure. It lasted about 3 years before finally the money ran out. Had to pack my car and go back to New York. At least I had a car and a place to stay in New York. In those 3 years, I lived in the biggest city in Alaska, which is Anchorage, not the capital, but I lived in Anchorage, Alaska, which Alaskans say is only 20 minutes away from Alaska. So anytime I want to get out and see some real life and some real land and be in touch with nature and actually be in Alaska for realsies, I would go to a place called Wasilla. And if you're looking it up, yes, Sarah Palin was the mayor at the time. If I can dip my toe in political waters, she didn't do very well for herself on the national or the global scene, but she was very popular. There were things needed to be done with the city, so she stepped up and carried the mantle. Even though she's a Republican, there's really no partisan politics on the local level. She took care of business. She took some dings in the national picture, and that's understandable. Politicians should be held accountable. Just letting you know, she was a local somebody, and we all like Sarah Palin as mayor of Wasilla. But I loved Wasilla. It's about 45 minutes from Anchorage, give or take, in what they call the Matanuska-Susitna Valley, the Matsu Valley, or just the valley. And it has the official starting line of the Iditarod. It's a 1,100-mile dog sledding race. For Anchorage is the ceremonial start, then the next day they kick off from Wasilla for real. I went there 1 year and it was incredible. Martin Boozer won the Iditarod, then he got sworn in as a United States citizen at the finish line after winning the Iditarod. How cool is that? Nice little town, beautiful lake called Lake Lucille. But from Wasilla, if Lake Lucille doesn't do it for you, you can go out a little further to the west, and there's another lake. It's a really big lake. You know the name of the big lake near Wasilla? It's called Big Lake. Big Lake is so big that in the middle of Big Lake they have this Long Island. You want to know the name of the Long Island in the Big Lake? Long Island. I've suffered from a teensy bit of jealousy growing up on Long Island, New York, but it's what it is. People who are a true glutton for punishment live in the valley and then commute to Anchorage every day. I wouldn't do that. Some people, I remember talking to people on the phone, say they make a trip to the city about once a month. It's so serene there and so beautiful. And it's not far away from where you begin to find people who are living pure subsistence. There are people who live in Alaska. They are human wildlife. They build their own homes. They catch and cook their own food. They don't spend money on anything, at least not in their daily routine. I have no interest in doing that, but in the 3 years I lived there, I realized just how far away I was from the true Alaskan experience when I saw people who moved from all over the world to be in Alaska and to live that subsistence life. One time I met a retired corrections officer from New Jersey who moved out to a place called Chickaloon to be a subsistence hunter, gatherer, trapper, just to live off the land and live deliberately. It was easy for Thoreau. Everything was rustic back then. But today, you need to go to Alaska to live like that. In fact, there's a great bumper sticker, t-shirt, slogan that says, Alaska, what America was. Now, if you're thinking about visiting Alaska, you're probably thinking a cruise. Not for me. If you like cruise ships, go right ahead. Me, I prefer a rail pass on the Amtrak, but to each his own. If you go to Alaska and you're there on your own, no itinerary, just want to see the place. Most likely you start off in Anchorage, get to see the city a little bit, walk up and down Fifth Avenue and buy some tacky souvenirs that they probably made in China and say you got an authentic Alaskan experience. But hop in a rental car and head out to the Matsu Valley and just check out Wasilla. Just be there. Just big enough of a town where you don't go without, yet rustic and wide open enough so you really get to take in nature. And from there you can take a day trip as far north as Talkeetna, get the most incredible view of Denali that you've ever seen. This is starting to sound like a tourism video, but really I want to focus on the people of Wasilla. When I first went up there, I just got out of the Marines. I said, okay, now I want to get back into the sport of wrestling. I want to get involved again. So how do I do this? I went to a website, I think it's alaskawrestling.com. It's something very generic. And I contacted the site director. I said, listen, I'm a reporter, which I was for the student newspaper. Would you like me to do some preseason previews on the local teams? So what he did, he hooked me up. He gave me the contact numbers of all the coaches in Anchorage. There were 6 high schools at the time. And I got to actually go to the practices and sit down and do a write-up for the website and send it in. While I was doing the rounds, I stopped off at West Anchorage High School, and this was the smallest program they had. So when I walked in, are you Coach Brown? Yeah, that's me. They're in the cafeteria just hanging out. So he sits down with me, we start talking. He said, hey, you're welcome to come down whenever you want. So I only did 3 out of the 6 profiles. I spent the rest of the time coaching at West Anchorage High School. Just walked in off the street. They let me hang out. So funny story, I'm coaching now at West Anchorage as a volunteer, but I'm there. One day we're at a tournament. It was a takedown tournament. You have to vary things up because you're wrestling the same people every week pretty much. So it's just a takedown tournament. And one of my guys, real tough kid, was going up against a multiple-time state champion. I think he was like a 4-time state champion from Wasilla. And his father was the director of the website. So I never spoke to the father, who was, I think, the principal of Wasilla High School. Never spoke directly to the kid, but I knew who he was. Once my time ran out in Alaska, I went back to New York. I started wrestling again in college. So I transferred to SUNY Cortland. We hosted a team. Columbia University came up, and that wrestler, I'll say his name, why not? Jed Wade was wrestling at our tournament. So 2 years earlier, I'm coaching against him, screaming my head off because my guy almost got a takedown on him. And now here I am working the scoring table at our tournament, and I'm giving him the ankle band. Like, please don't lose it. We don't have another one, okay? That was a little bit awkward. But all because of Wasilla, Alaska. I told you it's a special place. Beautiful place to be, fresh air, incredible views, nice people, and the principal of the high school gave me the opportunity to get my foot in the door into the Alaska high school wrestling scene. Just before recording this video, I pulled up Alaska on Google Maps. Sometimes I get a little bit depressed because I didn't stay as long as I wanted to. I didn't accomplish as much. I didn't see as much as I wanted to. But it's impossible. The place is too big. When I think about Wasilla and the times that I made that trip out there, just being in that air gave me all the Alaskan experience that I really wanted. So please don't take your frustrations out on the former mayor. And if you're ever up in Anchorage, I recommend you head that way toward the Matsu Valley. And as always, come back tomorrow for an incredible world-class speaking tip. Have a great day.